All right, we're going to get started and start talking about descriptive statistics and the value behind descriptive statistics for this data analytics course is really so that way we can start to describe the data sets that we are wanting to analyze. So first we're going to get into what is the overview of our data and defining our goals. Now, one of the most important parts about data analytics is understanding exactly what data is. And there are always all sorts of ideas about what data is. But here are the definitions that we're going to use for this course. So, for example, data is going to be the facts and figures that are collected, analyzed, and summarized for presentation and interpretation. So what's a fact and or figure? It could be the temperature of the day. It could be the number of males and the number of females that are in a classroom. It could be the count of the number of cats in an urban alleyway that's perhaps looking for food in a dumpster. It could also be the measurement of the stock market. So there's a variety of different types of data that is available out there. Now, what I described in each of those is a variable that is related to that data. So, for example, if I really wanted to know um, something about the trends in temperature change throughout the day, the temperature itself would actually be that variable. Now, typically, if we look at a spreadsheet, let's go ahead and open up Microsoft Excel, and we might see hopefully that will open up for us really quick. Here we go. I'm sorry. Let's get this sucker going. So a lot of times in our Microsoft Excel, we might see data sets that it might be like temperature, and let's just say that the hour of the day. So let's say that we're going to take the temperature at 6 a.m. and then 7 o'clock a.m. So every hour throughout the day. And let's just go from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And let's say in the morning it's 45 degrees Fahrenheit. The next time it's going to be, 46, and then it's going to be 47, 48, and then it's going to jump to 52, 54, and then it jumps up to 58, 58, 58, 58, and then starts to come back down to 54, 54, 54, and then 54. So this is our data set right now. Now let's kind of take a look at what each of these definitions are. So let's go back to what a data is. So data is actually this component right here, or it can actually be this component right here. So it is the measurement that is recorded of a specific variable. So that variable, of course, is temperature and hour in our particular example. So this is the data, and then this right here is the variable. Now, when you look at all of this combined, this happens at one moment in time. So this right here, come on, let's cooperate with me. There we go. This right here is an observation. At 1 o'clock, right here, this is another observation. So here we have that observation. Now, the last thing, of course, we're going to be looking at variation, and it's the differences between all of these variables. So one of the tools that we really look at for variation is standard deviation. But there are more than different, measures of variation. But specifically looking at it, it's the difference in a variable measured over observations. So let's go back to that Excel spreadsheet. So one example might be, what is the minimum of this data set? So by the way, minimum is going to be min. We're going to look at, let's say, the minimum temperature. which was 45 degrees. So let's look at the max. The max is going to be the formula MAX, and we're going to look at this data set here. So, and then we're going to look at the range, which is nothing more than the max minus the min. So the range is an example of the variation. Then there's also the standard deviation, and we could say this is going to be the standard deviation of the sample. That's what the dot S means if you're using this formula, and we'll look at this particular data set and just to format it properly. There we go. So the standard deviation is 4.082. So these are examples of variation that happen in our data sets. I'm going to keep that Excel open. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. And then there's also some kind of random variable or uncertain variable. A lot of times that uncertainty might be something that you might not know about. Like, for example, since that was just the hourly temperature measurements, there might be something else that's occurring. So, for example, there could be a change in, let's say, the humidity. And that could also be something, if you're not measuring it, could also impact your measurement. So that's sometimes called some kind of uncertain or random variable. But a lot of times we do measure humidity, so that's not really a perfect example, but it would be something that we're not looking at. Here are some more examples. So let's kind of go over what we just learned about here. So here we have each one of these from left to right. There we go, is an observation. That observation consists of these particular variables. And so variable here is a company, another variable is a symbol, another variable is the industry, share price, and the volume. This right here is the data that is representing the volume. There you go, representing the volume for this observation. This is the volume for Cisco systems, which represents this observation. And then, of course, if we were to go ahead and look at, let's say, the differences between all of these, so for example, if we did whatever the minimum, that's not working great, is it? Just looking at this observedly, this would be the minimum. It looks like this would be the maximum, and we could come up with a range. We could come up with a range of what's going on there. Great, that's wonderful. So minimum, maximum, and then of course the difference between these two would be the range of what's going on. All right. Here's a continuation of that same data set. So that is table 2.1, by the way, in our textbook. Here's a continuation of that same data set, and it continues on for several slides here. But it just shows you that that data can go all the way from, here's ExxonMobil is the last item, and if I come back a couple of slides, you can see that the first item is Apple computers. Okay. Now, another thing that's important is that we have to start taking a look at types of data. I'm going to pause right here, and I'm going to let you take a break, and we'll start types of data in the next video.